Hi there. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about alchemy and releasing trauma and programming. So essentially that is what is spoken about in books of old when they talk about alchemy. It is the progression and evolvement of the human soul and the release of trauma and programming. So we can view trauma and programming as something that is like a tarnish, that's something like darkness, that's something like, they call it slag when you're welding, so it's the kind of grey crumbly stuff that builds up when you do a weld, and it's sort of, you knock it off with a hammer and it drops to the floor. It's just dark grey matter. So when we release trauma and programming and we're able to let this go, this then gives us much more access to a purer part of ourselves, a kind of more clear part of ourselves, and we're able to function without being reactive or explosive or triggered. So it's an essential part of our development, and now more than ever we are required to do this. And the reasons we're required to do this is because the world is becoming more and more distorted. You just really have to look out there in the media, look at what is being seen as acceptable, acceptable for our children to view, acceptable for us to be liberal enough to accept in our lives. Society is becoming more and more distorted, I'll use that term. So when we work on ourselves, what it does is it helps to clear distortion, because we build up distortion and programming through our conditioning, through our life experience and conditioning. And this comes in the form of self-limiting beliefs, perceptions about who we are, distorted perceptions of ourselves, such as whether we're beautiful or ugly, whether we're intelligent or stupid, whether we're fat or thin, or any of these sort of polarities, and sort of so-called acceptable ways of being in society. So we're able to release those and see those distortions for what they are, for distortions. Now, letting go of those means doing the internal work, and the first step is acknowledging that we actually have a distortion. So a distortion or a strategy sometimes is developed as a way of us receiving some kind of attention. So say, for example, I might perceive myself as stupid, or a person might do that. They then go into the world and say it over and over again, so that other people might say, no, you're not stupid, or just something like this. So the distortion, we either embed it deeper into our psyche, that is true, and so that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We then experience that from the outside, or we use it as a strategy. Eventually this all becomes painful. This then creates a distorted personality. This is just not natural, and it's definitely not in alignment with ourselves. There will be part of ourselves that won't really accept this. So there will be opportunities in our lives to make these changes. My light's just gone off, I'm not sure why. So doing the work is fundamental for our freedom, for our mental and emotional and spiritual emancipation from having these distorted perceptions of ourselves. And also doing the clearing work enables us to have much more capacity to be compassionate and understanding to others. So the first step really is to recognize that we are carrying a distortion about ourselves. We're carrying a hurt, and we are carrying some kind of a trauma that we need to have a look at. And unfortunately, in our modern society, we are encouraged to suppress that rather than look at it. So suppress through pharmaceutical intervention, through usually in the form of drugs. Otherwise, people sometimes go and self-medicate and use recreational drugs or alcohol, and addiction then occurs because we're not coping with our lives, and we're not coping with those aspects of ourselves we don't really want to have a look at. When we are in step one, which is admitting and acknowledging, here we are, we have this distorted perception, we have this wound to heal. That's the first step to making the transformation. And the second step is clearing it, and there are different ways to do this clearing, and your own journey will be unique. Everybody's journey to healing and transformation is unique, and life will guide you, and you will naturally be drawn to and attracted to different modalities and different people who are going to help with your personal alchemy and your personal transformation, and letting go of these outdated modes of belief and perceptions about yourself and states of being. Letting go of those then really creates space, and it is a kind of energetic space, quite literally. I've certainly experienced that in the 30 years of personal development that I've been on, the journey I've been on. And this you may experience as releasing through tears. So when we have withheld and withheld and withheld for so long, as one of my clients once said, put a lid on it. If we have put a lid on our problems and our emotions, and we have not wanted to look at them for so long, they will need to be released somehow, and this will come out in some kind of form. So it may be released through crying, through anger. Sometimes anger is necessary. Anger can be a very necessary emotion when we want to shift depression, because depression is a form of stagnation. It's a form of suppression. It's a form of pushing anger down, of suppressing our anger, of not allowing ourselves to be angry. There may have been some conditioning around that. So anger can just be an energy, when in a positive sense. So we may release through an illness. Maybe it's an illness that brings us to this place where we have to make that personal transformation within ourselves. So, or it may be an accident. So there will be these indicators that bring us to this point that we need to have a look at ourselves. And then the second step is releasing. So as I said, when we release, we literally free up space. in our entire being. We free up mental space, we free up emotional space, we reach a new level of peace and acceptance with ourselves and with the world around us. We start to perceive the world differently because our perception is always dictated by who we are, not what's out there. It's more to do with who we are. I mean, sure enough, there are behaviors and events and actions and things that happen out there. This is true. But how we perceive our lives is our perception. And so these change, and this is where the magic really happens, and this is where the alchemy really begins. So part of what I do with my clients is I work on those 3 steps where we first of all uncover, we do a kind of excavation, we uncover what's underneath the underlying problem, and then we look at it, and then we clear it. We do a clearing and a releasing, and that may take some time. It may take several sessions, and there may be a few processes that need to be, gone through. And then after that, there is this beautiful place where creation can happen. And this is where we can redesign and reimagine and reinvent our identity. And we lose identities that no longer fit us, they don't reflect who we are. And, perhaps vocations or things we're doing in our life which doesn't reflect us any longer either. So this is when we naturally let go of addictions, for example, because they don't reflect who we are. We perhaps change jobs, or we lose relationships, or we just step into a new place with ourselves, because our fundamental identity starts to change, starts to morph, and we start to become more of who we really are. And who we really are is a beautiful thing, because it's partly something we create, but it's always something better. It's always something that is about our highest potential. It's always going to be something that's more beautiful, more loving, more kind, more talented, more giving, more of everything. And the more we become ourselves, the more we can be more, then the more spills over, and that impacts other people's lives. And this is like when you become a flame carrier, you carry a candle, and somebody else lights their candle, and that just keeps passing on. So the flame keeps passing on. It's just a kind of beautiful visual. But so this is the magic of transformation. It does take courage, and something some of us are short of, something that's not necessarily encouraged in our modern society. We don't have initiation processes, or we don't have sort of practices that would have been part of maybe some tribal cultures, for example, where they need to demonstrate certain advanced human qualities in order to reach a certain, or be recognized at a certain level within the tribe. These are very honorable, actually, these initiation rites and so on, many of them. So yes, drawing on these human qualities, like like courage and truth and honesty, self-honesty, and being vulnerable. They're just really important. So that's the message that's come through today to share, and I hope it's landed with you, and I hope that you can find the courage within yourself to make those changes and to just become more of who you really are, because that person is wonderful, is more than you can ever imagine.